Do you forgive everyone who has ever wronged you? If you don't, this video is for you. When we refuse to forgive, we chain ourselves to an event. But even people of faith who are supposed to know all about forgiving and are even taught to forgive often set a poor example in this area. We may know we should forgive people who hurt us, but too often we harbor resentment against them. Being clear about why we should forgive someone can help. I've had a very tough lesson in this department during the last decade of my life. I've learned that there's love and then there's unconditional love. Unconditional love extends love toward the unforgivable. Forgiving someone doesn't mean that their action's okay. Their action may have been quite terrible, but no matter the offense, forgiveness is the only reasonable choice, the only empowering choice, the only freeing choice. It doesn't free the offender. It frees the only one you have control over, you. Often people feel they can't forgive because forgiveness is a feeling and it eludes them, or because they have judged the offense as too great to forgive. That sounds reasonable, but neither idea is true. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. If we judge another person and condemn them in our minds, with words or with actions, then we have done something risky. It's risky because we've all done wrong things. If you say, well, I didn't do anything like that, then it's time to remember that we don't really know how we have affected different people along the way. The way that society rates misdeeds is not necessarily accurate. If we gossip and poison someone's reputation, do we know that that's really morally or ethically superior to breaking a law? Too many people today are living by feelings alone. Facts can be completely lacking. People get really upset over things that haven't even been verified. Surely we know by now that many things, even printed or reported, aren't true. One time I was board president of a subdivision where I lived. This lady there was literally going around with flyers trying to stir up anger and outrage over a rumor. She didn't know my position when she gave me the flyer. I asked her where she got the information and she couldn't give me a source. I told her that I was the board president and she looked embarrassed. I told her that it was really getting people upset over something that would never happen. The concern she was spreading didn't even make sense and was beyond unlikely. Her response was, well, sometimes you just have to get people worked up. I wanted to tell her to go home and get an actual problem. My point here is that she did get people upset and angry, and it was all based on imagination. Why she thought this was a good idea eludes me to this day. When someone does something we don't like, it's easy to make up their motive. We say, or we often hear something like, he or she thinks blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blank. That should be a red flag to us because we don't know what other people are thinking unless they tell us. I want to stress this point. We never know what other people are thinking or what their motivations are unless they tell us, and even then, we may misunderstand. All that said, when a person has demonstrated their character over and over again, we can get a picture about how they operate. An opinion formed this way isn't based on speculation as much as observation. In this case, we can draw reasonable conclusions about what a person is likely to do, but we still need to slow down when we want to ascribe motivation. We just aren't always as smart and insightful as we think we are. All right, so what if we really do know for a fact that someone has done something terrible to us, something that's affected us profoundly? How do we get past that? And why should we? As I said, we are really free to judge actions, but we're not free to judge people. I'm basing this on biblical wisdom. And if you can show me wisdom that's greater, I'll listen. We don't know another person's whole story, just like no one knows ours. If an action caused us or others great pain, then we can say that the action was horrible. It may even need to be punished. After we acknowledge that fact, then we need to ask ourselves if we want to carry and feed an unforgiving heart for a lifetime. The only person that suffers with this stance is ourselves. It actually takes a lot of energy to hold a grudge. While we nurse the hurt, the other person may never even know how we feel and just go about life as usual. If they do know, they may not care. Even if they were put in prison for what they did, they will not be feeling our angry heart, but we will feel it every day, and it won't feel good. The thing is, some things can never be paid back, even when the perpetrator is repentant. So either we get locked into the ugly memory, or we decide to let it go. Each situation is different. Sometimes reconciliation is possible, or maybe we will never be friends with that person again. Either way, harboring animosity hurts us. We just suffer additionally for what someone else did to us. That doesn't make any sense. Christian teaching tells us that if we judge, we too will be judged with the same scale. For me, that's a humbling thought, and it's a bit scary. I don't want to make mistakes judging people. I also don't want to suffer more than I already have. It's good to remember that hurting people hurt people. I had a very close family member suddenly do something unthinkable almost 11 years ago. 11 years. I received an email at Christmas time, no less, and I was given no opportunity to even reply. The situation affected quite a few people and still does. It created for me a damned if I do, damned if I don't situation with my heart, and separated me and my husband from 5 precious family members. A couple of days after receiving the email, I was sure that God made me a promise about it all. I thought I would be needing to wait 5 years for resolution. When the situation remained after 5 long years, I began to doubt God. The situation hurt and is hurting others too that are supposedly loved ones of this person. No one thinks the behavior is reasonable, but I am the one who likely has suffered the most. 2 colleagues of mine who are therapists have told me that some people in my situation would not survive it. There will be another video about this one day when I'm ready. I've experienced the gamut of emotions. Everything from complete despair to feeling like life wasn't worth living, to anger, to pure pain and frustration. I also felt compassion and concern. It's just been all over the place. At last, I have landed on a stable compassion and forgiveness. This has been an incredibly difficult path, but I have learned a lot. Unconditional love is just that, unconditional. I love this person, but I hate what extreme pain has been caused. No one causes this much pain without being in pain. This has changed my life and left me lonely for very precious family members. But maybe I wouldn't be here doing this if this had never happened. I told God when I was a kid that I wanted to grow my whole life. This has caused me to grow for sure. I want you to know that if you have a difficult, painful circumstance that there is gold to mine from it. It may not be what you want, but nonetheless, there is gold. Please find it and put it to use, because you're still going to have your circumstances either way. If you don't feel like forgiving, that's normal. Instead, we always have the option to choose it. This simply means not meditating on talking about the offense. It means that when angry, unforgiving thoughts come up, that we dismiss them as unhelpful and remember that we can be ugly too. We need to choose a different focus. For me, it's extremely helpful to think of a reasonable scenario that could explain why some person just dangerously zipped in front of me on the road, or why that person was so unkind. Some of my imaginary reasons may actually be true or similar to the truth. Either way, my flames of dislike or judgment get turned down and I feel better, happier. I don't have to actually know why something happened. I just have to take care of myself. A child is helpless and has a tantrum. An adult can do better. I can talk myself down and sometimes even talk myself into a loving place toward the person who has angered or disappointed me. The winner in this effort is always me. Forgiving something ugly isn't easy, but it's even harder to carry the weight of bitterness. No one needs that. It rots us from the inside. We don't have to carry bitterness, even if it means setting it down many times. One day we won't pick it up anymore because it's heavy, and we've developed a mindset that loves freedom over burden. When we start choosing to replace hate with love, we have learned how to overcome evil. We can use our will to choose light over darkness. We can fill ourselves with peace instead of angst. We all want peace, so let's make the choices we have to make to have it. No one has the right or power to steal it from us unless we give it to them. We long for acknowledgement of the pain our perpetrator has caused, and we long for them to care. That is so normal, so reasonable. Yet if we carry loads of hate, anger, and thoughts of revenge, we still can't make that happen. So what's the point of holding on to unforgiveness? We lose if we do. The only good choice is to switch focus to productive thoughts. Joyfully, we have a God that knows and loves us deeply. When we follow wisdom, we end up free. If someone comes to mind, please share this video with them and feel free to comment to me. Whatever it is that you must deal with today, do it with a forgiving and light heart. Think about if there's a way, a healthy way, to prevent it from happening again. Then release the pain. God has given you all that you need to be able to replace judgment with self-care, truth, and peace. You deserve this because you are beautiful.